What is up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to set up Firebase Authentication. Alright guys, so to get started, let's go to firebase.google.com, okay? Then up at the top, just click Go to Console. You'll just need a Google account, which pretty much everybody has. If you don't, it's easy to set up. And right over here, click Create New Project. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call mine Authorize, and select your country or region that you live in. Yeah, and once this loads, we will be ready. While that's loading, let's create a new Xcode project. So go to Xcode, File, New Project. Okay. Single view. You can name yours whatever you want. I'm gonna name mine Authorize. Make sure you have your team there. Language is gonna be Swift, or programming in Swift. Universal. These don't matter. And just click Next, okay? And save it wherever you want to save your project, okay? And it will load up here. Okay, so this bundle identifier right here, you're going to need to copy that, and then let's go back to firebase.com, okay? And right here, on the overview, there will be an Add Firebase to your iOS app. Click there, and it wants that iOS bundle ID. That's what you just selected, right? So paste that in there. That's my bundle ID, which is located right here, like I said. Okay. And we don't need any of these for right now. Just click Add App, okay? It's gonna say Copy Config File, right? So go to Finder, Downloads. Okay, so if you have two of them, you have to delete one of them, and the new one you're gonna have to rename to get rid of that 2 on the end, because otherwise it won't work with that 2 on the end. Okay, and just click and drag that into your project, wherever you want in the project. And make sure you have Add to Target and you have selected your project's name right there. Okay, so now it's my project. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, just click Continue. Now install pod. So if you don't have CocoaPods, you're going to need to install CocoaPods. Really simple. They walk you through it on their website. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below. I can help you out. Yeah, so get CocoaPods. And once you have CocoaPods, open up your terminal and CD into your project. So mine would be, well, that's CD desktop. And then CD into your project. Once you're in the project, you just say pod init. Okay, pod init. Now it's going to initialize a pod file. Okay, so now right here, while you're inside your project folder, there'll be a little pod file now. Now open up the pod file. Okay, go back to Firebase and copy this pod Firebase/core. Okay, go back over to the pod file that you opened, and underneath pods for, it'll be the name of your project. Paste in pod Firebase core, okay, and then we're gonna have a couple more here. The second one will be database and auth. Believe that's right. And then yeah, let's do those for right now. Save that, right? Go back to the terminal and say pod install. Okay. Should install everything. Alright, and go back to your Xcode project and make sure and exit out of the Xcode project. You don't need it open anymore. Make sure you exit out. You have to exit out. And go back to your file, and you'll see this white application folder now. You need to open that one and use that one from now on, otherwise it'll mess stuff up for you. Okay, so let's open that one up. It's going to index here for a little bit. Let's wait for that to happen. So down here is our pods that we just installed. This is a pod file, so now you can work in here. If you notice how this right there is kind of slanted and this one's not, you don't want the slanted ones, so make sure to get rid of those if you can. And we need another pod so that we can save to our keychain. So say keychain Swift. Okay, keychain Swift, and make sure and save that. Go back to the terminal and pod install. Yeah, see right here it's giving me that warning about that slanted quote sanitize. I don't know how to pronounce it, but say pod install. Okay, it's going to reinstall the pods because I added the keychain Swift one. Okay, so we don't need that anymore. You can actually exit out of the pod file. Don't need that. It's going to index again, but let's head over to actually let's head back to Firebase and click continue, and let's copy this Fire app configure. Okay, copy, and we have to go back to our application and go to appdelegate.swift, and at the top you're gonna have to say import Firebase. Okay, and right underneath here where it says override point for customization after application launch, let's paste that little snippet of code that we copied and save it. Fireapp.configure. So this configures all the Firebase stuff, so now we have Firebase within an application that we can use since we have this and that. Now let's go to our ViewController and let's import Firebase. Okay, and let's also import Firebase database. We need a Firebase database. And we can delete this boilerplate code, we don't need that for this. And let's create an IBAction so when somebody taps a button for sign in, it starts the sign in process with Firebase. Okay, so at IBAction week, oh no, this is an action. Func sign in. Okay. Whoops. Okay, and then here when you go back to Firebase and click finished. Okay, so everything on Firebase is almost done. We have to click over here on the side, Authentication, and click Set Up Sign-In Method. Okay, and we're using email and password. You can set up these other ones if you want, but right now we're doing email and password. And click Enable. Okay, you have to click Enable and Save, otherwise it won't work. If you don't click Save, it won't work. Up here at the top, they have a lot of useful documentation. So just click Go to Docs. Okay, it's going to send you to the documentation. And for iOS, Get Started Guide. And then on the side, we have Authentication, and then Password Authentication. Okay, so click on those. We've already installed this pod. We did that earlier when we were installing all the other pods. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to do these two steps because we already did those as well. The steps we have right here is to create a user, and then down here is to sign in. So if our user presses the button, they'll have their email and their password in there, but if they aren't in our system yet, we have to create the user, but if they're in our system, we'll just sign them in. Okay, so let's first do sign in. Let's copy the sign in. Copy. Okay, and we're gonna have to do some conditionals to make sure that the user has put in the email and the password. So let's say if let email equals we don't have our IB outlets yet, so let's add those. Oops. Okay, so at IB outlet week var, this will be email field. Okay, and that'll be a UI text field. And then at IB outlet week var password field. and that's going to be of type UI text field as well. Okay, so we got those. We just have to link them up. But down here at the bottom, if let email equals email field dot text. So we're grabbing the text from the email field, and then let password field dot no, let's let password equal password field dot text. That's right. So basically we're saying if email field and the password field contain text, right? Let's take that text and put them into these two variables, email. So the email field's text will be in email and the password field's text will be in password. Now let's paste a snippet of code from Firebase that they gave us, right? So this is to sign in a user. So if there's an email field and the password field, they have text in them, so somebody's email and then their password, let's sign them in. But what if they don't, like they haven't created an account yet, right? Okay, so down here, let's say if error equals nil, okay, we're going to perform segue, right? So if there's no error, there's a user, let's just take them into our app. Let's go. Okay, but if there is an error, we need to create a user. That means there's no user, right? So let's go back over to Firebase, go up here to the code for creating a user, and just copy that. Okay, right here, create user. And let's paste that right in here in our else statement. Okay, so if the user has signed in, let's segue. Otherwise, let's create a user because there is no user. Okay, so if error is not equal to nil, so if we have an error, in other words, let's print can't sign in user. Okay, else, so if we have successfully created a user, now let's say let's perform the segue. Okay, perform segue. Alright, sweet. So we have that pretty much done. The only other thing I can think of would be let's go and let's get those fields working, right? So let's go over to our main.storyboard. You can save this if you want. Let's go to main.storyboard and let's add our UI text fields. Okay. So at the bottom you can type in UI text field and it will just pop up here. You can add it wherever you want. It doesn't matter. Alright, I like to censor stuff, you know. Alright, there we go, we got it. Let's add some constraints on here to pin it to the sides. Give it a height and pin it from the top. Okay. Click add constraints and let's duplicate that. Let's create another one. Okay. Let's pin this one from the top. Sides. Okay, we're good there. Now let's get a button for the sign in part. UI button. Okay. This will say it's going to say sign in, sign up, sign in or sign up. And on this bottom one, since, oh yeah, we can add a placeholder text, I forgot. Let's say email. Okay, let's center that text. Click enter. And this is going to be password. Password. There we go. And center that text as well. Yes, on the password one, since it's a password, we want secure text entry. Okay, so basically somebody looking over their shoulder won't be able to read their password. So definitely put on secure text entry. It also looks a lot better. Yeah. And then we're going to need another ViewController. So after somebody signs in, they are forwarded to our next ViewController, which could be our social media app, whatever you want it to be, a game, yada yada. It doesn't matter what it is, but that will be on the other ViewController. So up here at the top, this is our sign-in ViewController. Click and drag, right-click from this ViewController over to the other ViewController and click Show. Okay. Now click on this little line pointing from the sign-in ViewController to our other ViewController, and up at the top there'll be an identifier. It'll say storyboard segue, and it'll have identifier. And in there, put in sign in, and make sure that you understand that this is a unique identifier, and you have to remember this, or at least have it exact for the segue to work properly. So let's copy that. Okay. And also we need to link up our email field and password field up to these two fields. So if you right click on the ViewController, this big screen will pop up and it will say outlets. Underneath outlets, click right here on the little plus for email field and drag that down to the email field and just let go. So now it's linked up, see that? And same with password, click on this little plus and drag down to the password and just let go. Okay. And at the very, very bottom, it says received actions. And it says sign in because that's what we called it as an IBAction. Click this little plus and drag it down to the sign in button. Okay. And then say touch up inside, third from the bottom. Touch up inside. Okay. So we're good there. We have everything connected, linked up. Okay. Let's go back to our ViewController. And make sure before you go to the ViewController, tap on the segue and copy the segue identifier. Copy that. Let's go to ViewController. And where I commented perform segue, now we're actually going to perform the segue. Okay, so perform segue with identifier. Okay, so that's the identifier. Tab. If you want to skip from different things like that, you can just click tab. There goes the next one. Perform segue, and then paste that in there again. You have to have the exact spelling, otherwise it won't work. No. Okay. Sweet. So we have that working. It wants us to put self in front of here, just so that it knows that's talking about the segue for this ViewController. It requires itself. Okay, so that should be working. I don't think there's any errors or anything. Let's go ahead and run this just to make sure. iPhone 7. Hopefully it works. Should work. We got like a little logo here, so that looks seamless to our users. So down the email, let's say hi at me.com. Okay, and for password, it has to be 6 characters long. So if it's 5, I click sign up. So it's not logging me in, and down here it says can't sign in user. Okay, but if I had that 6. Click sign in. Voila, I'm on the next screen. We didn't add anything on the other screen, but we're on the next ViewController here. Okay, so that's working. Now, let's say if I exit out of the app, right? I'm done for the day and I go back. She's gonna make me sign in again. Are you kidding me? Users don't like that. So let's create a way so that the users don't have to keep signing in every single time they open up your app, which just makes sense. I mean, that's how all the good apps are. So let's go back into our application. Oh yeah, and also if you want to make sure and see that the user exists, go back to Firebase, Authentication, and it goes over to users, and see that hi@me.com. There we go. You got yourself a user. So we know for sure that it worked because you have a user here. If you don't have a user there after you've signed in and everything, something's wrong, go back and look at the code. Okay. So anyways, in our application, okay, let's add a new file, okay, so right click on authorize and click new file, and let's just do a Swift file. Click next. Let's name this data service. Data service. Now in here, we're going to say class. We don't need that. This will be data service. Okay. That's all we need. We do need to import Firebase, import keychain Swift, I believe it is. Yeah, keychain Swift, and also let's go back up here and import Firebase database. We have to have Firebase database. That's where we get the user's ID, so that we can make sure that like it's actual user, so that they can log back in each and every time. Okay. So let's go right here and let's say let db database, or no, base. So it'll be like database, let's do all caps, equals fir database dot reference. Yes, reference, right? Okay, we got to create our private variables so that people can't change or manipulate the data we don't want them to be manipulating. And let's set this up for keychain in our database. Okay, so private var, this will be keychain, well, we can, yeah, keychain. And that's going to be of type keychain Swift, right? So it's going to private, and the next we got private var, what's going on var? Okay, this one's going to be database, okay, or a reference to our database, ref database. Okay, and that's going to be a DB base, yeah, the let constant that we just created up here. Okay. Now let's create. Oh, wait a second, I forgot to put return. Yeah, return that value. Okay, let's save that. Let's go back to ViewController. Okay. So when the user signs into our app one time, right, and they exit out of the app and they come back into the app, we don't want them to have to type in their password again. So we need to set it up so that when they sign in once, it saves their ID, so that if they have an ID, then it just signs them in because we know they signed in once already, right? So in here, let's say let keychain. Oh, I was looking for autocomplete. Keychain equal, what is it? Data service, right? Class dot keychain. Okay, so that's what keychain is. We're just making a reference to the data service keychain that we created. Okay, and let's say if keychain dot get, and the key that we're looking for is UID, right? If that is not equal to nil, so if there is a value in the user ID, let's perform segue. The identifier is sign in, and then sender is nil. Okay, so if there is a user ID, let's just immediately sign in. Okay. Now, at each time, so if a user either signs in or we create a user, we need to set the key ID in the keychain so that so they don't have to sign in again. Okay, we have to set that when they sign in. So let's create a function here so we don't repeat ourselves. complete sign in. One word. One word, gosh. And this is going to require the user's ID, so that's gonna be a type string. Okay. Alrighty. So let's let the keychain again. Let keychain. Well, why don't we just make a keychain a public? Well, not public, but let's move this up. So Command X on that, and underneath the IB outlets, just paste it there. Okay. We don't need to write it twice, of course. So if no, we have to say keychain, right? So keychain dot set value will be ID for key, and that's going to be UID. So the value we're setting is ID, which will be the user's ID, and for the key, so whenever we use like get UID right there, it's looking for this key that we are setting here. Okay, so down here, or if error is equal to nil, let's say complete sign in, and the ID will be the user dot UID. Yeah, there we go. And then same down here. Let's say complete sign in. And then I set this to user and then .uid. Sweet. And I think they want us to put self here. Yeah, they want us to put self in front of that function so it knows which function we're referring to. That's done. Oh, you know what? We have to also import keychain Swift, just for safety purposes. All right. Yeah, I freaked out there for a second. And let's just add a little image here, and it should work. I just want to add an image to make it look nicer. UI image. Okay. Let's just add the image there, right? 52, 102 from the top, that's fine. Okay, 52. And let's give it a height of 128, okay? And let's update those. Let's import our picture. If you don't know already, if you want to add images, you just go to assets.xca assets, okay? And you just drag and drop images in there, okay? And you have 1, 2, and 3x, okay? Let's go back here and get the image, Firebase. I'm just doing this to give credit to Firebase. I don't work for Firebase or anything like that. Okay, command copy. And according to Apple design on your launch page, you want it to be just like seamless as possible. So a user will just go to it and they don't really feel like there's no loading screen. It just wants to be like as seamless as possible. Kind of like when you go to Safari and you open it up, it doesn't seem like there's a loading page, but there really is a loading page. So that's kind of what I'm doing here with that. Okay, and then let's also put something on the final page so that you know we actually made it to the final page. Okay, 52, 102. Okay, and then I think we're gonna do sign out too, just to show you how to sign out. But let's first test this to make sure it's working, which it should be. I'll just add the button, UI button. Okay, we're gonna name this sign out. Sign out. that's good. All right, now it's running. Let's let it load up. Okay, see there. So I think maybe we did have to call this multiple times. So let's put that back in Viewdidload, and then we need that down here as well. Let's see if that was the problem. Let's load that back. Keychain. Yeah, that should work. Should work, but you never know. Okay, see that? See how seamless that was? Didn't even look like it popped up, right? So let's say hi at me.com. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sign in, sign up. Voila, right? So you see now that it switched screens. You can see the sign out, yada yada, right? If you hold Shift and Command and you tap H, it goes to the home. And if you tap H twice, it goes to multitester, so you can click and swipe up to exit out of the app completely. And open it up again, so it should work. And I know why. So over here on our application, instead of Viewdidload, it needs to be Viewdid appear. Okay. Oh, we don't need this code. What? Alright. You guys just delete that. Okay, so Viewdid appear. Just say Viewdid appear. Okay. If you want the Viewdidload, you have Viewdidload super.viewdidload. Okay. So there's your Viewdidload if you want that. Now if we run it, it should work. Because when it appears, it's running this code now. Okay. And it did. See that? So, try it again. Okay. So exit out completely. That's Command Shift H twice. And we're back in. Boom. Goes right past the sign in. We don't have to make our users keep signing in. Okay. But then you'll say, hey, what if I want to sign out and sign in as a new user, or I don't want that option, right? So that's why we have to sign out. But if I tap it, it does absolutely nothing right now. But we can get rid of that keychain, password, and all that stuff. So let's get doing that, okay? Let's head over to Firebase.com, okay? And back to their documentations that we were on. We got the create user and sign up, or sign in, okay? At the very bottom, they have to sign out a user, call sign out, right? So we need to use that. Oh geez. So we need to use that to sign out our user. So just copy that. Okay. And copy. Now let's go back to our code, and we need to create a new ViewController, right? So let's go right click on authorize, new file, Cocoa Touch class, click next, and UI ViewController, great. Let's say sign out code. Don't name it sign out code if you're really making an app. Name it whatever is useful. Language needs to be Swift. Okay, just click next. And make sure your targets are selected. Just click create. Okay, sweet. So in here, we need to create an IBAction. Okay, so let's just delete all this boilerplate code. Okay, so at IBAction, func sign out. Okay, and sender will be nil. or any, sorry. Yeah, any. And then just paste that code. Okay, and that'll sign out, but we also need to import up at the top Firebase. Firebase, oh, not the. Okay, and then also import keychain Swift, okay, because we have to remove that from the keychain. Okay, so let's say keychain Swift, I believe you can just say keychain Swift dot delete ID. I believe it does it. No. Let's say UID. Okay, so anything in that key should be deleted. Let's see what there is. Sure. Let's see if that works. Oh yeah, and also we need to dismiss our ViewController. So animated, of course, true. Oh, we're back. So if we click sign out, now let's just make sure the sign out part's working. Okay, go back into the app. Yeah, no, it's not. Okay, animated is true. Completion, we don't need any completion. Okay, let's just say data service dot keychain, or what was it, keychain? Let's see what we named it. I forgot already. Yeah, keychain. Data service dot keychain dot delete. Okay, and let's run that. Oh, I know what's wrong. We forgot to actually link up the button. Okay, so let's go back over to our main.storyboard and right click right here where it says ViewController, and at the bottom it should sign out code. Did we write that? Just sign out. Let's save it. Just make sure. Oh, that's right. We have to, so click on the ViewController, right? So click ViewController, and right here it will say, I forgot the name of it, show the identity inspector, okay? And that's going to connect to sign out code, okay? So now this ViewController is linked to that code, okay? Now right click on the sign out ViewController, and at the bottom it'll say sign out, and a little plus, click and drag to the sign out button and let go. Say touch up inside. Okay, now that's linked up, and let's play. That should work, I promise. Actually, I don't promise. Okay, so if we exit the app, does it work? We shall see. There we go. So when you sign out, it deletes the key and the user can't sign back in. Thank you guys. Now you know how to set up Firebase Authentication.